What is happening out there, Roto Scouts basketball and football fans? What's going on, gang? Good weekends? How'd your football slates go? How'd your Saturday go? How'd your Sunday go? Anybody do anything interesting? I had a quiet weekend. It was mostly working on football stuff. No football show on Saturday. We were behind schedule. We were trying to catch up. We were still, pretty just out of it over the weekend, but feeling good. Back at it now. Back to the usual routine. Here to talk about an 11-game basketball slate and then dive into some Monday night football action. Got Matthew Patterson here. We've got Cujo Blue, Kevin O. What's going on, guys? Matthews went to the Packer game. Could have sworn Tom Brady was wearing Baker Mayfield's jersey. It was an ugly clinic to witness. Yeah, Baker was my QB in my best lineup. Took what did it finish? Third, I think, in the one of the secondary FanDuel tournaments. Wish I'd put it into all my single entries. It was 1 of 5 in that one. It was 1 of 3 in another one. But that was my best lineup. It was also in the Millie. Was top 10 in the Millie for a while on FanDuel, and then fell off. I think it finished like 23rd. But I had a pretty decent football Sunday outside of obviously the Dak call. If you read the articles on the site, the Dak call went horribly wild, and a couple other ones. Wasn't the best week for the above-below column, but the projections were on point pretty well. Yeah, thanks, Matt. It was good, like I said, good Sunday. Could have been a great Sunday. It was a good Sunday. Profitable day, enjoyable afternoon of napping and watching football. Can't get much better. So let's dive into this thing. We got a lot to go through. Like I said, it's an 11-gamer on basketball. Let's do that. I just got done loading these up. I just ran this sim before the show, so I have no idea really what's going to be in here. So we're going to find out together. A lot of guys that didn't... Oh, these are all the guys I got to change. That's why. The shit that I usually do before the show. Give me 1 second to just do some modifications here. What we're doing here is just quickly going to replace all the juniors and all of the seniors. Probably just one, Marcus Morris. And probably a couple the thirds in there. And is there a fourth? Oh, that might have just killed somebody's name. Shouldn't do that one. I think that just takes out Derek Lively. L-I-E, yeah. Who else? PJ. No, other way around. Oh, he's out anyway, isn't he? I know what I'm doing. Who else? This is so annoying. Jerry, why is it not? I just took out the juniors. What? Didn't I just take out all the juniors? What the hell is going on here? Was I taking him out of FanDuel by accident? That would be a problem. No? Alright. Hang on. It's getting annoying now. What would the show be without Terry mumbling about spreadsheet time? Seriously. What am I doing here? Oh, that's why. The format thing was still on, so it wasn't changing them. It was just highlighting them. I was like, I know I'm changing it in the right spot. There we go. All right, who else is missing? Kenzie George for some reason. He's not a junior. Jared Butler, who cares? Matt Thompson, who cares? Kevin Knox, who cares? All right, we should be okay. That's a little better looking. Not sure why Keontae wouldn't come through there. It looks like he didn't go through on FanDuel either. Let me just look real quick. See why he wouldn't have. Hey, what did you guys do over the weekend? Talk to me here, gang. Getting back in the swing of it. It's been a few days since I talked to you. Anybody hit anything over the weekend? Showdowns or anything like that? His minutes are in there correctly. That's weird. All right, so we're down at Keontae George on both sides for some reason. Oh, is he not in their ownership? Maybe that's it. That explains it. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Sorry. Just trying to get all this straightened out. That's a weird one. Why do they have him projected for no ownership? It really doesn't matter. I'm wasting time just looking for Keontae George here. Could be Travis had a work Christmas party. Moderate weekend in DFS. Good weekend in traditional sports betting. There you go. Moderate weekend in DFS is always good as compared to a lot of other people's weekends and a lot of losing weekends. And definitely awesome to have a good traditional weekend. Work Christmas party, you good? Anybody embarrass themselves? Did you copy your face on the copier or anything like that? All right. I don't have George out, do I? That would explain it. Keontae George is out. Why did I project him for minutes? All right, I screwed that up. That explains it. All right, I'm going to need to be able to talk about that real quick. So let me just take a quick look at that rotation and what I screwed up. I even listed him out on the site. I just accidentally gave him minutes when I did the minutes. All right. Hendricks gets some, and then 10 more minutes goes. There. Just give those to done. And take that to there. All right. So just real quick for the Utah side of it that I screwed up there. This will have a little bit of an impact on what we're looking at here. Colin Sexton goes up by a couple of points. Keontae George obviously comes off the board. Chris Dunn picks up a couple of points. Sexton would be the one that probably hits the board a little bit harder than what we'll see here. Sorry about that, guys. Every now and then one sneaks through. So let's just take his minutes away. That's not going to change anything for us here. Let's just kill these 4 guys. Knox, Amon Thompson, Jared Butler. Don't even sweat at this point. Just going to move them. And Vince didn't come through either. What the fuck? Oh, yeah, he did. Okay. I was going to say, Vince is too important. I can't just say that about Vince. I would have to rerun this. Vince Williams will start there. 4,600, shooting guard only on FanDuel. His positioning's not coming through on DraftKings because he's junior. But whatever his cost is, he's coming up with a 50% win rate, basically. 48.8% on DraftKings, 34.8% on FanDuel. Most popular player on the DraftKings slate today. Looks like a rock-solid piece right now. He's probably not on the naming board. 0.84 FanDuel points per minute on the season. 31.1 in 30 minutes the other night. Takes a big step forward when he's in that starting lineup. Only thing that would hamper him is if he's not. So we'll keep an eye on anything there. So if you see the minutes come down, if you see the projection come down, just assume that his win rate is going to drop pretty precipitously. Manuel quickly at 4,800, showing a lot of value on DraftKings, 46.3% win rate over there. Isaiah Joe at 3,900, so a couple pieces of value really hitting the top of the board here. What was 46 for Vince Williams, small forward only on DraftKings. So why don't I just leave him that way? Oh, because his win rate won't come up. That's right. So 3 value pieces at the very top of the board, all with 35 to 48% win rates on DraftKings. Isaiah Joe not showing anything at all on FanDuel. He's a $3,900 shooting guard small forward on the DraftKings slate. So he's picking up a fair amount of value over there. 0.03 versus 3,500 because he's, versus 35.7 because he's 4,300 point guard only on FanDuel. And we get a couple nice pieces from the Clippers. Another value piece in Jalen Terry with a 16-minute projection. Don't know if I'm going there all that often. Jake Gilliard a little bit more realistic at 3,800. It's looking pretty starsy scrubsy just from a general sense on the DraftKings slate. A lot more balanced on FanDuel. Those super cheap guys aren't really bouncing as much on the FanDuel side. It could be Travis. You can count me out on Isaiah Joe chalk night. I'll find someone else to play 20 minutes. Sexton price way up. Markkanen looks good if you think he can get the minutes. Markkanen's on the trade market. Yeah, hopefully the Sexton price, as you point out, since he's not hitting the very top of the board here right now, hopefully even with a couple extra minutes, and it's not going to be crazy. It was a couple of points. Let's see, where is he now? Yeah, to start with, I was at 24 minutes, 24 points, call it a point per minute, basically. 3.25 on DK. A little bit better at 6.3 on FanDuel, 10.6 in the win column. So I figure that goes up to 15-ish. Maybe this goes to 6, probably less than 10. 7,000 is a fair amount to pay for him. Fair amount, meaning like a lot. I bumped him to 30. Played 33 last time out, 31.7 over the last 3. I think that's probably reasonable. I just did it on the fly, so I'll take a better look, obviously. 33, 32, 30, 26, 18 going back in time. I think 30 is probably the right number here. So he'll pick up, again, 5-6 points beyond this. So just bear that in mind. You're really talking about a $7,000. This is a good comp right next to him, and that one didn't go through. So the same positioning with 6 extra points. So call it the exact same guy, Jordan Poole. And it didn't change Jordan Poole's win rate. So it's probably not going to matter. That's the perfect guy to have right next to him, because that is basically the point differential. Huh. All right. Surprised. I would have expected it would go up a little bit beyond that. So I guess we don't need to care. So game environment-wise, if I'm going to put this together a little earlier. Actually, let me just pull it up on Pinnacle. So that first game off the top is the second highest total on the board. A lot of big point spreads today. A couple of aggressively low totals. So it's an interesting slate. It's a little weird. That first game, Clippers and the Pacers. Obviously, we know there's going to be scoring in that game. 247-point total. A 4-point spread. Indiana giving up 4 points to the Clips. Should be a good game. We just saw on the screen there a couple of the Clippers stars up at the top of the board on the DraftKings slate. So a lot of workable parts in that one. Rockets in Cleveland, just a 215-point total, 4-point spread. 10-point spread between the Bulls and the Sixers with 226 in the game total. 2-point spread, 217.5 between Minnesota and Miami. Grindy defensive kind of a game there. A 12-point spread between Charlotte and Toronto. Toronto favored by 12. 224-point total. And Miles Bridges was denied access to Canada. So we're not sure exactly, or at least I haven't seen yet, how that one's going to work out. The Pistons and the Hawks, 247.5 points. So that one's actually now half a point higher than the other game, than the opening game. So Pistons and the Hawks are at 247.5. Clippers Pacers is at 247. But the Pistons Hawks game has the Hawks favored by 12. The Pistons are obviously just atrociously bad. They're playing just the entire bench in some of these games. Difficult to project exactly where the minutes are going to be. But there should be pieces from that one. Should be pieces from the Atlanta side, just given all the scoring. 10.5 point spread. Memphis underdogs in Oklahoma. 229.5 point total there. Brooklyn and Utah, 234.5. Decent. Not a bad game environment. 4 point spread there. 8.5. Denver favored by 8.5 over Dallas. 237.5. 249.5 between Washington and Sacramento is the late night interesting game. But that's another one. 13.5 point spread in Sacramento's favor. Could get a little wild and get away from everybody. And then the Knicks and the Lakers rounding things out. 5 point spread in the Lakers' favor. 234.5 on the game total. So some interesting spots, but definitely some spots where there's blowout risk. Joel Embiid has only played half of their fourth quarters all season long. So he's one for sure in a game with a 10-point spread. Several of the Toronto guys, several of the Atlanta stars, SGA from the Oklahoma side, a couple of the Sacramento pieces. So there's definitely some danger spots for that, but in a lot of cases, they'll have done their scoring anyway. Like Joel Embiid has been amazing for fantasy on a lot of these nights, even not playing the fourth quarter. Mike Palm, what's going on, Mike? Hello back. Lone Wolf's here. What's up, Lone Wolf? Jake Swales. Jake says Harden smash spot, Siakam smash spot. Thoughts on Rashawn Holmes at the Stone Min? Last I saw, Rashawn Holmes was questionable, doubtful. Questionable. Make sure he's playing. See where he came through on the sim. He's projected at 5 minutes right now. So no. Unless I missed something there that's would change that. Let me see. I did take a half-hour nap between the last time I updated that and the start of the show. So apologies if I missed anything there. I don't think anything's changed. So I'd say not, unless you got something that I am not accounting for as far as Rashawn Holmes. And he's questionable. There's other sites that have him getting 18. That's a lot. Where is he? Oh, that's fine. I'm still on the wrong team. I'm just pulling up the last few games. I mean, he didn't play in their last game. He played 3 minutes 2 games ago. He did play 15 minutes 3 games ago. That was with Powell out, Derek Jones out. I'll pull up the injury report again. Luka probable, Josh Green out, Rashawn Holmes questionable, Kyrie out, Maxey out still, Derek Lively out. So some of those Lively minutes, I guess, could kick his way. A little bit more than... I'll look at it. I'll give it a little bit more thought. Wasn't one I had on my radar, really, to give all that many minutes to. For off the rails already. We haven't even started the show really, and we're off the rails. Why isn't he coming up? He's been at 0.88 roughly for the season. He was a 0.77 per minute player last year. At the dead min, if you give him 18 minutes of 0.85, he'd probably hit the board okay. Is there another comparable? Probably not. The only reason I'm spending time on it is because he is the dead minimum, and that would be kind of relevant on DraftKings. Like, you can see a similar projection. Andre Drummond in 12.5 minutes. This is probably around where I would project Rashawn Holmes for 18 minutes. Let's call that 0.85 roughly. That got at 4,100. That got Andre Drummond to a 5% win rate. So you can't say it wouldn't be relevant if you do think that he's going to get those 18 minutes. That's something to keep your eye on. I haven't really seen the thinking to give that to him. Am I missing somebody that I should be giving or taking those minutes from? I'm just trying to... No. I got a couple just garbage minutes going to... I can find him maybe 6 more minutes if I take away some of the garbage minutes that I assigned. Again, I'll look at it and if it gets updated on the site, or if you're following other projections, obviously, and there's good reason to go there, then yeah, at 3,000 at the dead minimum for DraftKings purposes, it would look pretty good, or pretty playable. Let's get this thing rolling though. So injury status. Danilo Gallinari's out. Miles Bridges denied entry into Canada and questionable status. Joel Embiid got added to the injury report at around noon. 12:30 injury report. Ended up being questionable. Probables: Terry Rozier, Alec Burks, who's available. Bam Adebayo's available. Jamal Cain, Tyler Hero, and Josh Richardson are all available for the Heat. Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray are both probable. Rui Hachimura is available. Miles Bridges added to the questionable list because of the immigration thing. Alex Caruso, Joel Embiid, Marcus Morris, Bones Highland, Tyrese Halliburton, Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington, Bogdan, Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Dorian Finney-Smith, John Collins, Omer Yurtseven, Lucas Amanich, Rashawn Holmes, one more time, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, De'Aaron Fox, and Anthony Davis are all questionable. And then Torrey Craig's doubtful / out. Zach LaVine, Darius Garland, Evelyn Mobley, Andrew Nembhard, Jalen Smith, Mark Williams, Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren, Kyle Lowry, Derrick Rose, Bismack Biyombo, Jordan Clarkson, Keontae George, Josh Green, Kyrie Irving, and Mitchell Robinson are all confirmed out. Or, excuse me, Mark Williams is technically doubtful. Doesn't seem like he's going to go. So let's get into some of these positions before this slate just starts. Still got football to talk about after this. So IQ hitting the board fairly hard for somebody projected just for 23 minutes. 4,800, pretty decent price for him on the DraftKings slate. On FanDuel at 52, both guard spots, you get him 18% of the time. I'm kind of surprised he's popping that much on the FanDuel slate. I'm not as surprised on DraftKings just because of the cheap price. But a 46% win rate for IQ is pretty aggressive here. 0.97 FanDuel points per minute on the season, 1.01 on the DraftKings board. Didn't give him anything special or anything like that today. It's just kind of price driven, and he's getting there. So nothing really, unique or special about his situation right now. He's He's at 0.95 for this year. He was exactly a 0.95 per minute player last year. For this game, in which I have them picking up 2.5 possessions, I've got him at 0.97. It's a little teeny tiny bit on top of what he might normally be projected at. He's going to be pretty popular. So I guess it tracks with what others are seeing. But yeah, just one that, again, just getting through on price, but wasn't really expecting to see that when I put the projections together today. Isaiah Joe, whoever said that in the chat, I don't blame you at all for not wanting to go the Isaiah Joe route. That said, at 3,900 shooting guard small forward, definitely does have value on DraftKings today. 35.7% win rate. That's not one where you would just decide to skip, really. He looks a little bit too important to do that. Maybe you want to undercut. Maybe if you're saying, all right, it's a 36 percent win rate on DraftKings, and he's going to be owned at right at that number. Let's say he's owned projected for 36% ownership. So I'm going to come in under the field because I'm not confident that that's really going to get there. I've seen too many, -1 standard deviations games from Isaiah Joe. So I'm going to go to 25% when the field's at 36 and he's got a 36% win rate. You're knowingly sacrificing 10 percentage points to the field of a player that, you have reasonable pivots away from. But he does look like he's, potentially going to be interesting tonight on the DraftKings board. On FanDuel, not at all. So I can justify if you don't see it. He's a 0.86 per minute player. He's projected just for 16 points. There's not a ton of ceiling in a 20-minute projection. So getting away from it for those reasons, you can make the argument and you can justify an undercut. But to say, hey, I'm going to just full fade because of the name on the jersey is a mistake. You don't want to just inject that in there as much as I might want to against with Isaiah Joe. Paul George looks terrific. 25% win rate on DraftKings. On FanDuel, just 6.4%. 8,700 shooting guard small forward on FanDuel. 8,100 shooting guard small forward is pretty cheap for Paul George on DraftKings. 1.16 DK points per minute. 5.40 points per dollar today. Looks like an excellent option on DraftKings. This Jalen Terry one, 16 minutes for him. 0.71 DraftKings points per minute on the season. That is literally below a 12 projection. It's an 11.4. Might not come up depending on how you set your optimizer for like your mins projection. I think 12 would not be unreasonable to use. I usually use 8 or 9. But at 3,500, it's kind of the same conversation as with Isaiah Joe, just with an even lower projected guy. You can see it. The 3.27 points per dollar does not play well. 0.71 points per minute, but he's 3,500 at those positions, does come through with a pretty aggressive win rate. Gilliard, a little bit more to hang your hat on at 24 minutes. Similar pricing, point guard only. Just a 16-point projection, but getting there 22% of the time, 0.69 points per minute. On FanDuel, 7.15%, $3,600 point guard. Getting by on price and positioning again. Dennis Schroeder comes up a lot for me lately. 16% winner on FanDuel, 19.5% for 6,500 on DraftKings. Just an is who he is type guy most nights. 0.96 FanDuel points per minute, 0.98 DraftKings points per minute. Burnt us the other night in heavy ownership for me, 31.2 minutes, 19.4 FanDuel points. But at 6,700, just go back to the well with it. Dinwiddie looking better on FanDuel than on DK, 18.9%. Very good on DraftKings, 7,500 point guard, shooting guard. On FanDuel, 34% winner, 7,200. Put up 53 in 39.9 minutes the other night. Tends to Dinwiddie a lot of games. Seems like a guy, name brand reputation wise, you would think more than 0.99 points per minute. You'd have him more in the, the 1+, the 1.12. He's not a hard. Let's not get aggressive about that. But you would think there's a little bit more here. But on the right night, you catch Dinwiddie and at the right price and positioning and all, like he looks tonight, you can get the upside out of him. Melton, just a 1.6% win rate on FanDuel, 16% on DraftKings. Looks a lot better over there. Harden looks like the better option between him and George on the FanDuel slate at 17.8%. On DraftKings, he's pulling about half the win rate, 12% versus Paul George's 25%. SGA, very, very playable from the superstar tier on the FanDuel slate. Arguably a little bit too cheap still at 10.5 on DraftKings. With how good he's been, 1.54 DK points per minute, 12.56% winner over there, even at the point guard only. I was going to say even at the high price when I just said it was a kind of a low price. Apparently I am still a little bit brain dead today. Jamal Murray, 1% win rate on FanDuel, 10% on DraftKings. A lot of differentiated guys in this high price tier across sites. This one's a little bit more common across. Cade Cunningham, 12%, 9% on DK. Very playable on both sites. Murray was probable. Seems like he's going to go. 1.15 DraftKings points per minute puts him in 10% of the winning lineups for 7,200. It's not a bad option. 72 for Jamal Murray versus 75 for Spencer Dinwiddie. Kind of lean Murray on that one. 72 for Murray versus 65 for Dennis Schroeder. I kind of lean Schroeder on that one. I just got logged out of WordPress for some reason. Good group down here with Cade, OG Anunoby, Trae Young, Darren Fox, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson. A lot of highly playable options in that group. So Cade is 12% on FanDuel, 8.5 on DK. OG, 18.9% at 6,300. Small forward shooting guard on FanDuel, 66 on DraftKings, 8.4. For 10,000, Trae on the DK slate in an appealing game, that Detroit-Atlanta game, until they've got Detroit, beat by 35 points in the fourth quarter and Trae's not playing anymore. That's going to be an appealing spot. But he's been at 1.41 DraftKings points per minute, 1.34 FanDuel points per minute, 52.8 in 38 minutes the other night. Very strong option. In the Washington-Sacramento game, Darren Fox looks very similar to Trae Young. 10,000 for Fox. Projects. That's an anomaly. This might just, I guess, maybe just the product of, came out of one sim, run 50,000 times. But I'm a little bit surprised that for 100 less, same position, and a fantasy point more, that we didn't get more De'Aaron Fox in winners than we did in for Trae Young. Interesting. Not sure why that would be. But very, very, very similar plays at $100 difference, fantasy point and change difference. Similar win rates, similar production, 1.34 FanDuel points versus 1.33. On DraftKings, it's the exact same story. 1.41 versus 1.38 per minute, 8.19% win rate versus 7.55. $10,000 Trae Young versus 9.6 for De'Aaron Fox. Even more compelling over on DraftKings. I like playing them both. I like getting to one or the other. I suspect we'll see a fair amount of both of them. Tyus Jones pushing a 19% win rate on DraftKings at 63. A lot less relevant on FanDuel, rather. A lot less relevant on DraftKings at 6.7, but 6,600 gets him through a few times. $9,900 Donovan Mitchell. Another excellent scoring option, 1.32 per minute on DraftKings. Point guard and shooting guard eligible. Jalen as a little late night spot. 15% win rate on FanDuel, about a third of that on the DraftKings slate. Obviously, very high-end upside. Nice high ceiling for him on the right night. More going to be in this range most of the time, which is, that's what the mean is. But he's a 1.13 per minute player. So you don't want to get way too far out over your skis on Jalen. So far, the pricing is okay. If we see him crest into like the 9,000s, that's going to be stay away time for Jalen. Like if he has a couple of big games this week and they bump him up even more, that's going to be ugly. Dante Exum, not the value piece that he was recently, but still playable. 5% win rate, 4.5% on FanDuel, 5.5% on DraftKings. Just not the absolute go-to value play anymore. Des Bane put up a 50 in 39 minutes the other night. 12.2% winner on FanDuel, 5.08 on DraftKings, shooting guard, small forward on both sites. Some of the differentiated pieces down here on FanDuel. Kevin Huerter, 32% winner, 4,700 for 24 minutes. He's 55 on the DraftKings slate, 3.5% winner. A couple of 10s right here in Colin Sexton, Brandon Miller. Sexton, like we talked about, will pick up a couple of points, might go up a little bit on FanDuel, and might just be in the same territory that him and Jordan Poole are in on the DraftKings slate. Jordan Poole not showing us anything really on FanDuel, 2.8%. Did you see Poole slip the other day in that clip? It was his own, apparently the play before he had flopped and he was all sweaty and it was his own sweat that he slipped in the next play when he was coming down. But just Somebody cut together like they digitally put in a ghost, like punching him and knocking him out. Pretty good one. Timmy Hardaway, 21% winner on FanDuel. Just 2% on DraftKings. 12% for Malik Monk. 18% for Cam Thomas. Neither one of those guys above 1% on the DraftKings slate. Couple of five, a 2, and then big 21 for DeJounte Murray down all the way at the bottom of the board here. DeJounte Murray, 7,900 on FanDuel, shooting guard, point guard. On DraftKings, he's 8,700. That's a big price discrepancy between sites. 0.01% winner on DraftKings, 21.3% winner on FanDuel. Very important piece on the FanDuel board. Max Strus was the 5% guy. Jalen Green, 2%. Buddy Hield, 2%. Nothing critical for those guys, but I'm glad we went all the way to the bottom because DeJounte Murray was hiding there. Miles Bridges unlikely to play. Makes sense. I mean, they were, as of a few hours ago, they weren't letting him into the country. So it's seemed like he wasn't going to make it. So all right, yeah. So we'll clip him, and we'll see where those minutes land. Usual suspects in that rotation will probably just pick up some minutes. We've seen that one before. I'm just taking a quick peek, see if anything popped up. Nope. Kawhi, Paul George. So Kawhi on DraftKings, between those three guys, his DraftKings number at 28.5% is, out of the 6 parts of that, the lead spot. All right, 3 each or 1 each on each of 2 sites for 3 guys. So Kawhi on DK, followed by Paul George on DK, followed by Harden on FanDuel. I forget what Harden was on DraftKings. But that's where it's the top 2 pieces of that are Kawhi and Paul George on DraftKings at 28 and 25% win rates. But all 3 of those guys in that very high-scoring game against Indy to lead off the slate look like they're going to be commanding shares from, reasonably high prices. They're all very, very good players, so these prices I'm perfectly happy to pay for these guys. It just becomes, as I've talked about a few different times, how many lineups do I want with 2, let alone 3 of them in? I don't think we're going to get to 3 just based on how they're priced. That's where all 3 of them being, fairly high priced but not crazy works out kind of in our favor, because you do get 2 of them enough, but you don't really tend to get 3 of them all that often, even when they project well. I'm curious to see how it builds out tonight, though, because again, all 3 of them stand out in a very appealing game. 12% win rate on FanDuel for Kawhi Leonard. So a lot less appealing on FanDuel, but definitely part of the mix over there. Julius Randle also a 12.05% winner on FanDuel. Mikal Bridges, 17.16%. That's the Bridges from the Nets, the one that we'll be playing. On DraftKings, in between those guys, you've got Dalen Terry, who we talked about, Isaiah Joe, who we talked about. Bojan, 6,900 small forward, power forward on the FanDuel slate, 67 both forward spots on DraftKings. Just on, I guess, just relative price, price relative to cap and positioning, showing a lot more value on the DraftKings slate. Only 200 less, but versus the lower cap, that obviously has a big impact. 16.89% winner on DK versus 4.8% on FanDuel. Good option, 0.96 FanDuel points per minute, 1.0 DK points per minute. Kind of picking up 32 in that game that should have some scoring, at least from the Atlanta side. And if Detroit's going to hang with them at all for, a quarter or so, Bojan presumably is going to do something. Santi Aldama, 7.5% winner on FanDuel at 5,500 is a 13.87% winner on DraftKings, 1.01 per minute over there. Kenrich Williams with a 12-minute projection. I don't really buy that one. So here's one. Again, this is another one where it's just kind of coming into, we're talking about a 12-minute guy, so there really isn't that much ceiling. You don't need much ceiling when you're looking at $3,200 options, but with a sub-10 FanDuel DraftKings projection, it is getting him there 11.5% of the time in these lineups. So it is entirely price and position based. But that's one that I'm really concerned about the ceiling. If he goes out and plays 8 minutes or doesn't play at all, you're just completely shot in the foot there. So I really don't love that one. But at 32, it's just the numbers. Like all the Sims work with is the numbers. It has no bias whatsoever, and that's how much he comes up. But you obviously need that, standard deviation and 2/3 type game from him, maybe, to really get you where you need him, even at 3,200. He doesn't have many of those. Aaron Gordon I like a lot better. 10% winner on FanDuel, 6,400. He's an 11% winner on the DraftKings slate. 0.93 points per minute on DraftKings, 0.94 on FanDuel, 40 FanDuel points in 32.9 minutes the other night. Does a little bit of everything on the court. Just a good player overall. Corey Kispert, 26 minutes at a reasonable mid-price, 5,000 on DraftKings, puts him in nearly 11% of the winners at both forward spots. Small forward only, 4,500, 9%, 9.6% on FanDuel. Markieff with some minutes in Dallas. I might take a couple away and give them to Rashawn. If you see that happen, Markieff comes down a couple points, Rashawn goes up a couple points, and you probably don't really love either of them. Right now, Markieff, no value on FanDuel. Little bit on DK. He's a $4,000 power forward center on DraftKings, 10.5% winner. Derek Jones, more realistic, 5,600 small forward, power forward, just 3.4% winner, but that's significantly higher on FanDuel than Markieff. At 5,300 small forward only, he's roughly the same win rate as Markieff. And Anobi we touched on at the guard spot. Isaiah Livers, 4,000, just another cheap guy. Both forward spots, just a 13-point DraftKings projection, but getting there a little bit on points, or on price rather. 0.54 DraftKings points per minute, but cresting through at 8%. It looks like a lot of these low cost, low projection, just garbage guys. It might pay to just get a big, broad mix of these guys. These the low projected the Liverses, the Markieffs, the hold your nose and play it options like Kenrich and Dalen Terry and Isaiah Joe. But I suspect when we pull these up, we're going to see a lot of value plays through these forward spots. AD saving us from the run of value guys at 10-4 in the middle there. 6.34% winner on DraftKings. 3.75% for 11-3 on FanDuel. $8,200 DeMar DeRozan. Nobody's favorite option. 7.8% winner for 8,200 small forward only on FanDuel. 6% on DraftKings at 81. Harrison Barnes, Dante Exum, Jalen Williams, Desmond Bane. A lot of playable guys as we go down the board here. A lot of, playable single-digit win rates through these guys. And this is where a bunch of the guys that are normally more in, this territory are hiding. With your Barneses, your Exums, Desmond Bane, Tari Eason. Eason just a 0.02% win rate on FanDuel, 4.9% on DraftKings, 1.15 DraftKings points per minute so far this season. Denny Avdija, another piece in that Washington-Sacramento game to keep in mind. Looks like a killer on FanDuel. 5,800, both forward spots on FanDuel. Danny's coming up at nearly a 50% win rate. On the DraftKings slate, he costs 1,000 more than he does on FanDuel against the lower cap. Same positioning, 4.8% win rate. That is a big difference across sites. RJ Barrett, not really showing anything on FanDuel. A little bit on DraftKings, sub 5% winner, but still getting there at a reasonable enough clip. Pascal Siakam, very playable on most slates, and again tonight, 9% win rate on FanDuel, half that on DraftKings. Sadiq Bey, just a lot of minutes available for him. Played 36 the other night, put up 16.2 FanDuel points. Very capable of going out and repeating that. But overall, you get some reasonable games out of him, and he's just got a ton of run right now. 0.79 FanDuel points per minute, 0.81 DraftKings points per minute on the season. Cam Johnson playable on both sites. Not really a priority on either one. A little bit better on the FanDuel slate than he is on DraftKings. Just kind of a mix-in guy. LeBron looks a lot better on FanDuel. 19% win rate versus a 4% on DraftKings. He's 300 more on DK than he is on FanDuel. Timmy Hardaway, I think we touched on him in the guard spot, but again, 21% winner for Timmy on FanDuel, 2.01 on DraftKings. Makes me wish I was playing on DraftKings. Every time I badmouth Timmy, he goes out and has a good game, so probably means play Tim Hardaway again tonight. You're welcome, FJ Bourne. Scotty Barnes, 8% winner on FanDuel, not so much on DraftKings, 1.08%. 9,200. The price has gone up, and Scotty Barnes is holding up fairly well here. 1.31 FanDuel points per minute on the season. 45.8 in 34 minutes the other night. It's a high projection for him, but reasonably within his grasp. Keegan Murray, 9.6%, or 9.2% rather, on FanDuel. Just 0.87 on DraftKings. Anybody else need to be talked about here? 10% down there for Kyle Kuzma. I'll definitely make sure I get some shares of that in that Washington-Sacramento game environment. On DraftKings, not really worth doing, 8,600, 0.13%. You can have him in a lineup or two, but he's not a priority over there. There's another one hiding down here, 25% for Isaac Okoro. Jeez. I was glad that we found DeJounte Murray at the bottom of the board. I'm not sure I'm glad we find Isaac Okoro at the bottom of the board. 5,200 on DK, small forward, power forward, not showing anything, 0.04%, but at 4,200 on FanDuel, small forward shooting guard, 25% winner. It's a 0.70 FanDuel point per minute player. In 31 and a half minutes the other night, he put up 29. For the money, that's getting you reasonably close. Need a little bit more. We have where is he? There he is. So he was 0.64 per minute last year. 0.70 this year. I've got him at 0.69 tonight in a game where I have him losing 0.8 of a possession. So we are technically 100th of a point behind his current season pace. It's not like we've got him projected through the roof or anything here. Just coming up price and position again, driving it on FanDuel. You don't have to worry about it at all on DraftKings. But on FanDuel, he's probably going to be on the board. Beantown. What's going on, Beantown? I'm a loser till I win the millie. What's going on, bud? Welcome. Beantown, any objections to playing Young and Murray in the same lineup on FanDuel? No, not really. They come through perfectly fine. Just, the two of them side by side in this. I'm sure we'll see it when we pull up the Sims. Just given the strong win rates and the game environment there in play, the one thing I would caution is maybe you don't have them both closing in a game where they're like lighting it up, or, even they don't have to be up 30 in that scenario. They're up 15, 18 points. Maybe they're not both out there. But otherwise, I think you're fine to get reasonably close to the correct minutes in an aggressively high game environment. Probably evens it out, and they're both capable of getting there. We'll see how often it comes up in the top lineups, though. It's something keep in mind. Remind me when I pull up the lineups in a minute. Julius Randle, top of the center board on the DraftKings slate. Don't see that all that often. 19% winner on DraftKings, 12% on FanDuel, 1.17 FanDuel points per minute, 1.23 DraftKings points per minute this season. Not his best year overall, but has salvaged a lot and has been a lot better than he was the first couple of weeks of the season. It's my team, so I have difficulty liking Julius Randle all that much, but I try. I would not mind seeing Julius Randle in another uniform at some point and moving on and changing my Knicks. But while he's here for the Knicks and while he's at the top of the board in the Sims, I definitely think we want to get to some shares of Julius Randle here. And I definitely am going to support him as a Knicks fan. So 12.05% winner on FanDuel, going to have some. 19.02% winner on DraftKings, power forward and center eligible. I think you definitely want to have some over there. 17% win rate for Nick Claxton on DraftKings, 6,600. 7,000, 7% winner on FanDuel, playable. Definitely a relevant part of the center-only conversation over there. You got three center-only guys at the top here, occupying 32.8% of the win rate. That's Claxton, Clint Capella, Xavier Tillman. Got another 4.5% there going to Chet. That's a 1. There's another 5 going to Dan Gafford and Nikola Jokic. Joker picking up 4.5%. It's not terrible. 8% down here going to Nick Richards. 11% going to James Wiseman. What? That's just dumb. 4,100 for Wiseman, 22 minutes projected. He played 26 the other night, put up a 34.7. It's a 1.07 per minute player in 13.6 minutes a night. It's easier to be a 1.07 per minute player than it is in 13 minutes than it is in 26. All right, so across those highlighted center-only guys and James Wiseman down here, that's 64% of the win rate at FanDuel. So you're probably going to see another situation where most of these power forward centers, and really only a few of them are showing like aggressively high win rates. So most of those guys probably land at power forward, and we probably get a lot of the center-only types at center today on FanDuel. As usual, a lot more playability and flexibility among the guys at this position on DraftKings. Claxton, Capella, and Tillman, 17, 16, and 14% winners, all easily playable from the mid-range over there. You get Kenrich Williams popping up again. We talked about that before, but again, let's keep this in mind. That is a 2.95 points per dollar. Look at all the numbers around that, and then look at the 2.95 again, and just keep in mind how low that is. But he does get there at almost a 12% rate, just based on how cheap he is. We'll see where he falls in some of these lineups. We'll see what they look like. Feeling like it's going to be very Starsy Scrubsy when we pull up DraftKings. Chet looks a lot better on DK. 10% winner over there, 1.25 per minute, 5.34 per dollar. Solid projection on FanDuel. Just a playable part at the single center position, 4.53% win rate. Put up a 54.7 in 32.4 minutes. Not bad. Bagley at 27%, probably mostly falling at power forward. Powell probably also mostly falling at power forward, 40% win rate. Those guys are 8.7 and 7.9 respectively on DraftKings. What DraftKings doesn't have is like a high peak, right? Like that 40% win rate. DraftKings peaks at 19% among these centers. It's just a lot of, like, basically those guys all within 10 points, and then in another 10 points you get the rest of these guys. Whereas FanDuel, you've got a much bigger spread. Jokic, always playable on both sides. Pay up luxury item, 1.79 DraftKings points per minute, 6.65% win rate, 11.7 for the salary, 12.5 center only on FanDuel, 4.5% win rate. Even at the aggressively high price, still holding down a pretty good win rate. Getting there 4 times as much as Joel Embiid for 300 more at the same position. Out projected him by 0.64. Embiid 1.84 FanDuel points per minute. Got him cut down at 34 minutes. I'm just trying to sort of artificially account for never playing in the fourth quarter. Right, he's playing 33.9 a night across 22 games. He played 29.9 the other night. When they need him out there, he's always perfectly capable of playing it. So you don't want to cut him down to like 30 minutes. But him not playing the fourth quarter a lot of these games is challenging. But still, again, in 30 minutes, he put up nearly a 70 on the FanDuel scale the other day. It's just that he needs to really get there for you at 12.8. He really needs an 80 or more. So that 69.5, that looks really nice in 30 minutes. But when you factor in the price and where he's projected, that's not that huge. Right? This is just like, that's an okay, it's a good performance. It was a very good game, don't get me wrong. But it's not going to put you over the top for winners. You would need at 12.8, if he goes out and does this exact same thing again, put 69.5 FanDuel points in your lineup at 12.8, you need the other guys in that lineup to do a little bit extra to make sure that lineup gets there. Crazy as that might sound. Richards at 5,700. Solid projections, 1.01 FanDuel points per minute on the season so far in 20.6 minutes a night. The other night he played near 19 and a half, put up 22.3. With no Mark Williams, there's been value there. I think we can go back to it. Sabonis, 5.95% winner on FanDuel. Not really anything on DraftKings at all at 9,800. He's 10-2 on FanDuel, but I think the power forward eligibility is probably helping him hang on to that relevance. Just a 0.72% winner on the DK slate. Jarrett Allen, 14.7% on FanDuel. Nothing on DK. 7,400 center only versus 7,300 center and power forward. The Wiseman one is standing out to me. Let me look at him real quick. Um, 1.11 in a game where they're getting big uptick in possessions. 1.08 on the season, 1.0 on the nose last year. Got him at 1.11. Might be a little high. What are we doing with the minutes? It's 28 minutes with Bagley out, and 26 minutes with Stewart out. Stewart's out again today, so I think we should be right, about right. If anything, there's an argument to be made that he could be given a couple of extra minutes, actually. How will I approach Toronto, Charlotte with Bridges out and Hayward possibly missing? Very carefully. Let me see. Let me pull up Charlotte. If Hayward doesn't go, that's like 32 minutes, and then Bridges, we're already assuming like 36 minutes is coming off the board. So, jeezy crazy. This is gonna get ugly. If I did that and that. McGowan's picks up minutes for sure in that scenario. PJ would pick up a couple just on, change. I'm just trying to think who's active out of the down bench guys. JT Thor goes from, I've got him at 10 to probably like mid-teens. Couple extra minutes for the guys who already have minutes, like Brandon Miller. He goes from 34 to 36, just whatever I can squeeze onto there. And then probably guys I think like Leaky Black is active down the depth, down the bench. Booknight's not. Frankie Smokes is not. Cody Martin is not. LaMelo is obviously not. Mark Williams is out. I think Nick Smith. Oh, Nick Smith is back, so maybe Nick Smith picks up something as well. I really will have to look at this one. But looks like Amari Bailey's also active. Oh, and Booknight is active. All right, so a couple of those guys will pick up some minutes. They each got, Leaky Black got 7 minutes the other night. Actually, all three of them got 7 minutes the other night, it looks like. So presumably a little sprinkling of minutes around those guys. But what you'll really see is most of the guys who already have minutes projected just get enhanced a little bit. Yeah, Miller, I had Jake at, I was right around the season number. They're also like they're not losing it. They're picking up like 0.8 in terms of the pace. So you could argue that I already had them a point-ish low. If I give them even that, Probably that. Probably had a... Might have been like a 1.5-ish lower on him already. If I give him an extra 1.5, it takes him to 0.83 versus a 0.78 season long rate. It's probably a little bit aggressive on just picking up like, less than a possession. So that's why I left him and basically everybody on this team at like their season numbers, or like, what comes through the model that's roughly their season numbers at this point. But yeah, with an enhanced role and a couple additional minutes, he'll go from 36 minutes and 26 to 28 fantasy points, call it, to 36 minutes and probably over 30 and change fantasy points. So he'll definitely pick up some value up there. And at 6,000, 6,800, playable at worst, I would think. Where was he on our board? Yeah, he's already showing a 10 on FanDuel. Where he'll pick up value that you're not seeing already is on DK probably. 2.4% over there, 6,800 shooting guard, small forward. He'll probably go up at 6,000 on FanDuel at small forward only. He was already showing us 10%, so he'll definitely go up over there. Yeah, Nick Smith. Nick Smith is a good call. I didn't realize as I was talking it through initially, I didn't realize that he had been active the last game, but he played 26 minutes last time out, so he'll probably pick up something. They have one. Yeah. Oh, and they've also got that. I forgot about this guy. Oh, he's a center, though. Did they even see in the game tonight? I couldn't. It took me forever to figure this guy out, this Nathan Mensah guy, the other day, because he just wasn't in the player pool. And I was like, where am I missing minutes? And I couldn't find him. And then I realized that there was a guy on the team that wasn't in the player pool. So he's there now, but he's a center. So I'm not really thinking he's going to pick anything up, but maybe. Where are we? Oh, I was moving the wrong file. I got to move the one that you guys can see. Yeah, so we'll add pieces from this one. We're not really taking much off the board because, like, Hayward, 1.1 on FanDuel, 0.68. Miles Bridges wasn't really coming through on either, a little bit on FanDuel. But we're definitely going to be adding a little bit from the Charlotte side here. Probably won't see much movement from Rozier. 94 on FanDuel, just 0.94. Already a strong projection. 87 on DraftKings, just 0.31. Kind of surprised he wasn't a little bit more valuable at that price on DK. McGowan's will probably pick up a little bit of something. He's a very different player on both sides. 3,800 for McGowan's on FanDuel. He might find a little bit of value. I got him at 18 minutes, and he's not showing us anything at all. But if you give him a little bit more, I got to think. Although it was 0.56 per minute, maybe not. It's not like I'm going to go out and double his minutes and get him to 20 points. I tell you, on a team with better players, this might be more impactful. Right now, I'm not even sure how big an impact this is going to have. That's how stupid this team is right now. Brandon Miller will definitely go up. Otherwise, stay tuned. I think I rounded out center, right? Keeping in mind we've got football to talk about still. Yeah, Embiid did that. Anybody who's differentiated here? So Jared Allen, James Wiseman, that's where we left off, was the Wiseman one. And nobody else is really relevant. Poor Bam. Returns to just be buried down here. Projects well, 9,300. Both sites, 38 FanDuel points, 37 DraftKings points, 1.31, 1.30 per minute. 0.66% win rate on FanDuel, and in 50,000 sims, did not get into a single winning lineup. Poor Bam. O-Rob, right there with him. No love for the Heat big men tonight. Let me click out of here. Let me click on this. Jump to these sims. right. Little DK. Oops. All right. Fair amount of Emmanuel quickly up at the top of the board here. Vince Williams. Ending in a solid handful of these lineups. More, I'm going to say, balanced by a lot than I was expecting. These lineups don't look nearly as ugly as I was expecting them to, with some of those names we were talking about. Like, where's all the, I guess Vince and IQ are both there. Maybe they're just soaking up all the value. Maybe it's Josco and Vince, IQ. There's an Isaiah Joe. There's an Isaiah Joe. There's one. So there's a few. I guess I was just expecting to see more Isaiah Joes. There's another one. But these aren't nearly as ugly looking as I thought. So you get pretty decent spend in the point guard spot. A lot of and SGA. Several Hardens. A couple of Dinwiddies, a couple of Meltons in these top lineups here. Some Donovan Mitchell. You do get a few value guys mixed in. Like your Gilliard plays. There's a few of them here. There's 2, 3, 4 in the top 20 whatever lineups. But overall, looks like a little bit of spend at point guard. Mixed bag at the shooting guard spot. A lot of your quickly shares drop there. But you can also drop them in the guard spot or obviously in the util. But where we're not getting quickly, we're getting a fair amount of Isaiah Joes. Some OG from the mid-range. Some Melton from the mid-range. Just 1 Paul George, 2 Paul George, 3 Paul George there. But I'm sure he's in some more of these somewhere. You know who's not, surprisingly, is Kawhi. There's one. Oh, no. There he is. Okay. I was looking at the power forward and the forward spot. So most of the Kawhi just landed in the small forward spot. Oh, do we have 3 Clipper lineups? Let's see. I don't even instantly see 2 Clipper lineups. Which is good. I like, as I've said, I like keeping them separate. Here's one. Kawhi, Harden. I'm sure there's some more. So, all right. So we're spending, for the most part, at point guard. We're either going value or mid at shooting guard. Looks like we got a decent amount of spend, or we're just taking our Vince Williams shares at small forward. So both of those are like, I'm taking either my spend guy here and putting the value guy in the position, in the, the general position spot for guard or forward at the shooting guard in the small forward spot. Power forward, a lot of Julius Randle, Bridges, the one that'll play, Siakam, DDR, some Aaron Gordon, a little bit of Kawhi. So it looks like power forward, decent little spot to spend some money. We're basically saving at center. It's not completely down and dirty because you do get some Turner shares, some Chet, some Capella up at the top. Xavier Tillman from the value tier, Marvin Bagley, Andre Drummond from the value tier, Daniel Theis, Jalen Williams, Zubac. A little diversity at the center. Then guard, like I said, guard and forward, you're just taking either the value play or the pay up play that you didn't put here or here. A lot of Vince at the forward spot. A couple of Santi Aldamas in there. A couple of Dante Exums in there. A lot of IQ and Dennis Schroeder at the guard spot. A couple of Hardens. A couple of Jamal Murray's, SGA's mixed in. Some Dinwiddie. And then the util spot, mostly looking value-ish. Vince, Malachi, Dan Gafford. I guess you could get that to the mid-range. We'll call that a solid mid. Chet, Nick Claxton, Freddie Van Vliet, Spencer Dinwiddie, Capella. A lot of multi-center builds. Turner Pirtle, Tillman Holmgren, Tillman Gafford, Capella Gafford, Tillman Claxton, Bagley Gafford, Capella Claxton, Turner Capella, so on and so forth. So a decent number of centers at the util spot, which makes sense. We saw all that long list of playable centers. Mamba, I would imagine. Mamba asking, are the Lakers on national TV tonight? They're playing the Knicks. Last game of the night. I'm not 100% sure, but it is a Knick game. So presumably, they'll have some focus and some desire to be out there. I assume that's why you're asking. Link expired. Sorry, the link you requested is no longer expired or no longer available or has been removed. Interesting. So there's not an NBA TV schedule anymore. No, actually, you know what? It's not. Because it's Monday. The Dallas and Denver game is on NBA TV, it looks like. But there's no TNT game, no ESPN games today. But still, New York, LA. Gonna need 7x trade day. Not a bad spot for it. Wouldn't surprise me. Just jump to FanDuel. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do our traditional little... Whoops. Our traditional little highlighting of all the wrong lineups at the bottom of the thing. Saw a little differentiation in that top line up there. So that top one again, that wins 200 plus on average. SGA, OG, Vince, Harrison Barnes, Turner, IQ, Corey Kispert, Jakob Pertl. It's an interesting one. Oh, it's by projection, the top projected lineup at 261 brings back an average cash of 179, which is competitive with the top of the board. Why do I keep highlighting? That lineup, Gilliard, IQ, Kawhi, Randall, Tillman, Jamal Murray, Vince Williams, Chet Holmgren. Kind of like that. Kind of like that second one, too. Gilliard, IQ, Paul George, Bojan, Bagley, SGA, Vince Williams, Nick Claxton. Kind of interesting. So a lot of workable parts. Some good spots to spend on good players. Not as... It's Starsy Scrubsy, but it's not as crazy Starsy Scrubsy. It's like we took a couple of scrubs and then we still went a little balanced instead of going like all the way up the mountain to the super high priced stars. See how it looks on FanDuel. Fairly similar. More Starsy, I think, on the guard spots for sure. Schroeder Freddie, Trey Jalen. All right, I'd assume Moon, Donovan Mitchell, maybe not so much, but Tyrese, Freddie Van Vliet, Jalen Brunson, Killian Hayes, Les Spencer Dinwiddie, Trey Young. A lot of good pairings anyway. James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Trey Young, Darren Fox. Gotta like that. That lineup dies as you get toward the back end of it. I liked it through like here, and then it was like, all right, Denny, it's okay. Santiago Thomas, Dwight Powell, James Wiseman, maybe not so much. Good amount of Wiseman at the center spot. Some Capellas. So it looks like we were getting fairly mid-level results. A lot of Capella coming up on FanDuel. He's cheap. Clint Capella is a cheap player on the FanDuel slate most nights. Good amount of Dwight Powell. Good amount of Julius Randle across the power forwards. Like we looked at, most of these guys, if I'm remembering their positioning correctly, are all, for the most part, center-only guys. So the center comes up as the center-only guys. Your power forward eligible guys just stick at the power forward spots. Get a little LeBron in here, some Marvin Bagley. So some of the power forward center guys do make it into the power forward spots, but this is dominated by the center-only guys. Avdia Desbain, Kyle Kuzma, Tobias Harris, Denny Avdia DDR, Avdia Cam Thomas. Very quality pairings through the small forward spot. Like every single one of these pairings is good player, good player. Right? There's not a scrub in this entire group. So small forward is a spendable spot. Divide a good chunk of salary between the two spots. Shooting guard looks fairly similar, but you do have your Ios creeping through there, your Vinces, your Koros. Fuck, didn't mean to click that. What is going on FanDuel today? Our top lineup wins an average of $83. That is a weak day. That top lineup that brings back $83. Dennis Schroeder, Freddie Van Vliet, James Harden, Isaac Okoro, Avdia, Desbain, Marvin Bagley, Sadiq Bey, and Zubac. It's an interesting one. Not a lot of money in the average cashers today, though, on FanDuel. Big slate, a lot of spread, and a $30,000 top. That'll do that to you. 312 was our top projected lineup. That guy brings back $54 on average. 0.12% win probability, 600% ROI. That's giving you Dinwiddie, Tyus Jones, Cam Thomas, Vince, LeBron, Denny, Aaron Gordon, Scotty Barnes, James Wiseman. I like that lineup a lot better. Just in terms of, again, I like it better in terms of just eyeballing it. Naked eye looks, it's the stupid way to do it. Naked eye, it looks a lot better. It projects significantly better than that other one we looked at. But it does not bring back as much cash on the average because the guys are going to be a little bit more popular. This one's 16 points lower projected. What was that on? 298 versus 312. 14 points lower. Just goes to show it's not all projection. Anyway, let's get out of that. And one of these is the show dashboard. There it is. That's why. It can only detect these windows when I have them, when they're windowed. If they're part of a full screen, it doesn't see them. Why? I have no idea. Okay. All right. What is happening, Roto Scouts football fans? Welcome to the football show, gang. Jake Kongwu, I didn't see a Kongwu hit the board there. Oddly, because usually they're like side by side. I'll check real quick. Let me look real quick for you. And then we'll move on to the football show. Yeah, Kongwu, his price must just be up a couple $100 versus where it was. Because I didn't change his minutes projection from what he's been getting. And he's coming up now at a 0.27% win rate on FanDuel and a 0.42 on DraftKings. 6,300 power forward center on DK, 6,200 center only on FanDuel. So I think those prices are just up a little, and it just stripped him of the value that he'd been providing. Good player though, been good. 0.94 per minute on FanDuel, 0.92 on DraftKings. All right, I'm going to close something so that I can get to these files. All right, let's close that. And I'm closing the basketball dashboard. So no more hoops talk. So, Philly and Seattle. As we all probably know, the big issue is that both quarterbacks are questionable. All day long, it's been Geno most likely not going to play. Don't know if anything's been confirmed or changed over the last little bit. I'll check Twitter right now. But then the other reporting is Jalen Hurts. The quote that I read was Jalen Hurts is feeling sore and lethargic and low energy and has all the symptoms of the flu but doesn't have the flu. To which I say, what's the difference? If he's got all the symptoms, that's really all that matters. So word is that he's going to try and go and get out there and play, or at least like warm up and see how he feels kind of a thing. We're going to have to play that by ear. That's obviously a massive, massive change. So right now I'm projecting it with Drew Lock in, taking the start for Seattle. I do think that's what we're going to get there. And then might have just gotten a change for, nope, Clint Capella and DeAndre Hunter both available tonight. Tyrese Halliburton also playing tonight. Miles Bridges has officially been ruled out. So if Jalen doesn't go, we get Marcus Mariota in that spot, which would be, kind of interesting. He's cheap. I'll give him that much. But for right now, I've got it as Jalen, who obviously dominates the top of the board here. Just looks, he's what, 10-ish points higher than anybody on the Seattle side. Seattle just a little bit hampered, your DKs, your Tyler Lockett's, your Jackson Smith and Jigba's, a little bit hampered by the idea of playing with Drew Lock. Still decent enough projections for a showdown slate. We're obviously playing all three of those guys. We're playing some Kenny Walker. We could probably mix in some Jack Charbonnet. We've got the three-headed tight end on the Seattle side, which is always interesting showdown-wise. Two of them are at $200 each. We'll take a look at their targets and everything in a sec. So there's definitely options on Seattle. You've got that sort of deceptively soft Philly defense where they're 17th and 18th, 4.2 yards per rush attempt. There's a lot of teams in this range that are tied, so you can rank them. They probably could jump a few points higher than that. 6.5 yards per pass attempt, 18th, but they've given up a ton of passing touchdowns. Not that Seattle's been excellent at throwing the ball into the end zone all season, but there is a little bit of potential edge there. Might help Drew Lock out a little bit, but it's not a great situation for Seattle. On the Philly side, if Jalen Hurts plays, they should just be full steam ahead, regular expectations for Philly. Right now, it's only a 3-point spread, 45-point total. The Eagles favored by 3 on the road. So it's not a blowout situation. I don't know if that changes by a significant margin if we get confirmation on Jalen or anything like that. So might just be a game that plays a little bit close, despite one of these teams starting their backup. 4.4 yards per rush attempt yielded so far by Seattle on the ground. 6.7 yards per pass attempt. A gettable defense for sure. Philly scores in a number of different ways. They've got the dynamic downfield passing with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They've got DeAndre Swift as a very capable running back. Dallas Goedert back with the team now. Solid target in the end zone. And up and down the field too. I don't want to take that away from them. I think your kickers are playable on both sides. I think your defenses are playable on both sides. Couple of downstream options on the Philly side. In Quez Watkins, Olamide Zacchaeus, you're just basically throwing big play darts there. Boston Scott probably picks up a couple of touches. Kenny Gainwell will have more touches and a more realistic projection. I skipped over him by accident. Julio, really limited opportunities. Grant Calcaterra, Jack Stoll, the backup tight ends, probably no opportunity. Probably come out of my player pool at sub 1. Guys that come out of the pool, probably DJ, Jack Stoll, Grant Calcaterra. Let's see if there's justification to leave Jake Bobo in. That might be a little bit high. Fraction of a point. But I'd probably leave in Julio, Boston, Quez, Zacchaeus, Bobo, Disley, Parkinson, and Fant. And then everybody else is, actually playable. But those are your guys that are going to give you those, those high ROI lineups in Sims. They're not all that highly owned. Those are the guys that make the differences on these showdown slates. Your low-owned touchdown scorers. Your low-owned big play, one target, turned it into 42 yards and a touchdown type guys. Where can we start? Just because it's exactly where I opened it up. The tight end situation. Noah Fant. Thank you, Joker. Noah Fant, 4 targets in each of the last 2 games. Has not scored a touchdown all season. Regularly 30 to 45 snaps. Runs routes on about half of those. Gets targeted about a quarter of those routes, not even. Going down the board to... Where the hell are they? Why are these not in order? Parkinson. 2 targets last week, 0 targets the week before that. Caught both his targets, put up 28 yards, and scored a touchdown last week. 23 snaps, 2 targets, 28 yards, and a touchdown. From a tight end that today costs 200, that's slate breaking, potentially. Just that kind of a performance on a showdown slate. For 200, if it's at, if it's in the thousands, if he's priced where Charbonnet is, that's not necessarily slate breaking, right? It's not automatically that guy is going to be in the winning lineup when you get one of the regular guys scores a touchdown, puts up a few yards. But when one of these super cheap guys does, or super cheap and low owned, that makes all the difference in the world. So that's why I like the tight ends and the down depth chart tight ends for some of those opportunities, because they tend to get those targets in the right spots. And, a lot of the time you see them do something with them, and they're never popular. So I think that's a playable option. And then you have Disley also there. He had 1 target last week. He turned that target into 3 yards. He ran 5 routes. He played 19 snaps. So it's essentially 20-ish snaps going to each of Disley and Parkinson, and then 35 to 40 snaps going in Noah Fant's direction. He's the most highly projected. He's the most likely to actually do something, but he's also the most expensive of the tight ends, 2,600, 7,500 across sites. Most notably not 200. But he's also going to be the most popular, the most obvious. But I think either one of these guys as a dart is reasonable. In the red zone, Disley got a target in week 13. Didn't do anything with it. Parkinson's target that he turned into a touchdown must have come from outside the red zone. And then Noah Fant hasn't been targeted in the red zone since week 3. So it's a little bit concerning that they haven't been looking the tight end's direction all that often. But especially with the idea of a backup quarterback in there, rookie quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks, tight end's their best friend. Eagles, Jalen Hurts will be active tonight versus the Seahawks. There we go. All right. So we don't have to get into the Mariota of it, which is a shame because I added all of his career numbers to this sheet in a screenshot. Marcus Mariota completed 59.4% of his passes in 2019 through 7 touchdowns in 7 games. His last year in Tennessee. Let's see. What else should we talk about? DK Metcalf, touchdown last week. Monster 3 touchdown game in week 13. 5 targets last week. 8 targets the week before that. 9 2 weeks in a row before that. 12 going back to week 10. Tons and tons of volume. Lockett, the targets have been the last 4 weeks 7, 5, 8, and 6. He's got a fair amount of volume as well. Jackson Smith saw an 11 target game, his season high in week 13. Dropped back down to 7 targets in week 14. He has 2 touchdowns on the season in week 7 and week 8. His I meant to add his ADOT. He was seeing gradual improvement in his average depth of target as things progressed. He had 5 out of 6 games through from week 7 through week 12. He had at least a 20-plus yard target. But that didn't happen each of the last 2 weeks. Still primarily, operating out of the slot, operating underneath. So it's difficult to get ceiling out of him. But if you're operating in a PPR sense, looking for one of the lower owned potential touchdowns from this offense, he's got a little bit of juice. They rank in the order that you would expect, though. DK, Tyler Lockett, and then Jackson Smith. Kenny Walker came back last week after missing 2 straight. Carried the ball 8 times for 21 yards. Caught another 4 of 5 for 33 yards. Was targeted twice in the red zone. That's where my tight end targets went. Reasonable expectation for Kenny Walker. Charbonnet carried the ball 9 times in that game for 44 yards. So he out-carried him by 1. He was targeted less. He got caught 1 of 1 for 4 yards. I expect Kenneth Walker to be, the nominal lead, but there's touches available for both of them. Charbonnet carried the ball once in the red zone last week. He carried the ball 5 times in the red zone in Kenneth Walker's absence the week before that. Walker didn't carry the ball in the red zone, but he did get those 2 targets in the red zone last game. Leave the running back situation on the Philly side. Kenny Gainwell carried the ball 4 times in their last game, 2 times the game before that, 2 times the game before that one. So not a ton of touches available for him. He does run a fair amount of routes. Just 13 last time, but 31 the game before that. 6 targets, 5 catches. Last game went untargeted. In week 12, caught 2 of 3 for just 10 yards. The output is minimal. The opportunities are, close to minimal. They're limited. But there's a little bit there for a showdown. He's not expensive. He's one of those differentiation pieces that you can mix in. Boston Scott carried the ball 3 times last game, put up 9 yards. 1 carry for 2 yards the game before that, 2 carries for 14 the game before that, 2 for 8 in week 11. He was targeted twice, caught 1 of them in that 4-game stretch. Has not carried the ball in the red zone since week 6, which is kind of the Boston Scott thing, right? These showdowns where you get those cheap, just 2 yards and fall into the end zone touchdowns from him every now and again. That hasn't been happening this year. He has 0 rushing touchdowns, 0 receiving touchdowns on the year. He's got a high of 5 carries and 40 yards in week 2. So just not a lot for Boston Scott right now. In a very limited sense, I think you can mix him into a few lineups. But it's not like they're really doing you a ton of favors with his price, at least not on FanDuel. Where is he on DK pricing? 18 makes it a little bit more reasonable as a value option. Just cross your fingers, hope for the touchdown. But it's not great. And especially now that we know Jalen's going to be healthy, just plenty of opportunity for them to be throwing the ball. AJ, 94 yards on 9 catches, 13 targets last week. Targeted 13 times the week before that. Caught 8 of them for 114. Obviously a stud wide receiver. Had a really good stretch through week 7, 8, and 9. Touchdown in each game. Had that ridiculous stretch actually from weeks 3 through 8 where he had 100-plus yard games every game. And then a good chunk of his touchdowns came through there. Swift, by the way, since I did the other 2 low-end running backs, Swift carried the ball 11 times last week, 39 yards. Ran 11 routes, went untargeted, but typically picks up a fair amount of targets. 6 targets the week before that. 1 in week 12, 3 in week 11. Averages, call it 3, just eyeballing it. He had taken a step forward, kinda, in terms of overall touches through like the mid part of the season, like week 7 through 11, let's call it. Even week 12, 14 carries, 80 yards. That was just the 1 of 1. But the potential touches last week were just 11. The week before that, the potential touches were just 12. So he's been an up and down option, but definitely showdown slate. There's plenty of touchdown upside there. His red zone carries have not gone away. He's had red zone carries in 3 of the last 4 games. And every game this season, except for the bookends, except for last week at Dallas, he had no red zone carries. And week 1 at New England, he had no red zone carries. Every other game, he's gotten at least 1 opportunity to carry the ball in the red zone. Devontae Smith, with all the volume that AJ gets, doesn't really impact him. 10 targets last week, 11 targets the week before that. Caught 5 for 73 in week 14. Caught 9 for 96 and a touchdown in week 13. Week 12, 7 of 8 for 106 and a touchdown. 99 yards on 6 of 8 in week 11. So he's been around 100 yards, at or above 100 yards in 3 of the last 4 games. Touchdowns in 2 of those games. Highly, highly productive receiver. Big time downfield threat. Dallas Goedert came back last game, 4 targets. Same target volume he had the game before he left. Caught all 4 of them for 30 yards. Saw 1 red zone target, but obviously didn't convert it into a touchdown, but he did catch it. handful of red zone targets through the season. Pretty reliable option for them once they get in close. Probably would have a couple more touchdowns if they hadn't resorted to just picking up their quarterback and throwing him into the end zone. But that's what they do from in close now. So maybe that saps a little bit of his touchdown equity, but he's the top tight end overall on the slate by a wide margin. Who else? All these guys. Normally I put this in order, and I don't know why it's not in order today. Oh, I know why. Because I sorted the points. I sorted by points. Remember, I had to resort it by teams again. That's why. Quez Watkins ran 11 routes in their last game, went untargeted. Did draw 4 targets on 40 routes run the game before that in Week 13, the San Francisco game. Caught 3 of them for 28 yards. OZ, 1 target, caught it 28 yards last game. No targets in Week 13. 1 target, 29 yards. He caught it for 29 yards and a touchdown in Week 12. That's just his game. They're going to target him once or twice. He may or may not make a big play for you. That is essentially what we want for a showdown guy. He's cheap. He's reasonable enough. It's just a very limited opportunity. So it's a play that you have to understand the nature of the play when you make it, I guess, is what I'm getting at. He's 2,200 on DraftKings. I prefer Quez probably at 800, but I think so with the field. So you probably get more differentiation if you can figure out OZ. And once we get down to this level, it really usually doesn't matter which one of those guys we pick salary-wise. We just have, all right, I've got 4,000 left. I can get one of these cheap guys. Oh, geez, it's coming up on 6 already. Got to get the lineup building done real quick and then get basketball updated. So I slightly prefer Quez for the cheaper price, but I do think Zacchaeus is interesting. But again, you just have to know the nature of the play when you make it, is that these guys are going to get 1 or 2 opportunities, and odds are they do not convert. Odds are you're booking a 0. But on the days that they do, it vaults you up the board significantly. And then there's Julio, who has not drawn a target in either of the last 2 games, running very limited routes, 13 snaps last week, 10 snaps the week before. The right play, the right snap in the red zone, you hope, and maybe he falls into the end zone with it. But that's a really limited option down the depth chart here. And then, like I said before, I think Calcaterra and Stoll just kind of come out of the player pool. Let's get into this real quick. We're just going to do a few of these because I have to get on basketball. I didn't realize we were coming up on 6 already. Damn, Power, I should have just said that. There you go. Yeah, should be. I mean, I don't even want to say should be an ugly slog of a game because then they'll go out and have a 60-point shootout. The ones that I expect to be good have been terrible all year. The ones I expect to be terrible have been good. So who knows? But it has all the makings anyway of a game that will not be all that much fun. So in honor of him actually being out there, let's put Jalen in that spot there, and we'll go. Let's start us off with a Jalen Goddard, and let's just see what happens if we stick in Olamide Zacchaeus. Actually, no, wait, I said I like Quez better. So you do that, and you got 8,600 to spend across these positions. That gives us a fair amount of working room since Drew Lock is only 92. We're gonna have. Let's just take DK for now. And then 71. So there's a little bit of a drop off. All right, 78 for Kenneth Walker. 96 for DK Metcalf. And then it drops all the way to 66 for Tyler Lockett. So there's a gap in pricing here. Where that's kind of why I'm thinking that it doesn't really matter whether you use Quez or OZ or any of these other cheap guys in that spot, because you can take whoever. I can take Tyler Lockett and stick him right here if I want him, and I got 500 left over. There's no way that lineup's not duped. How could that not be duped? I don't buy it. Something is amiss. Is Quez not projected for ownership? No, he is. Ignore these numbers. Oh, the captain ownership. That's weird. Why did those go through as zeros? I knew that couldn't be zero dupes. Not with that lineup. I got this right here. I can just load this back in. Oh, no. That's basketball. Loading basketball in here wouldn't help. What this is also not helping with is picking up speed to get back to the basketball projections. Always something. Hopefully these haven't updated. Okay, I think they're the same. That's more like it. Dupe 19 times. I had a feeling. But that's with Metcalf and Lockett in here, and I wasn't going to go that way. I just wanted to illustrate that price thing. So let's do something different and say, like, what about Metcalf and Fant just to get it down? 12. Meh. What about Lockett? And Fant gets down to 11. That's not really good enough. If we go... Now we've got 13.5 and we can buy whoever. I just want to see this. This will be duped a lot. Yeah. All right. So back to building from that starting point. If we go lock. The kickers, I mean, as usual, you could just cheat it and be like, oh, I'll take Colby Parkinson. And it's not cheating because those are the, as I said before, those are the differentiation plays. But for like this exercise specifically where I'm just trying to lower this number, I don't like just doing it that way. It's a little artificial. That's a weird one. Not as artificial. Both kickers. A down depth chart, dart throw over a receiver. Obviously, you've got a lot more money that you could stick into that lineup. Can't get Smith. Go like Gainwell there. I don't love it. Definitely playable 10 dupes. A reasonable enough lineup, actual expectations for all of these players. But I don't completely love it. If you swap L8 in there, you lower it by a little. Oh, I had L8 in there. If you play Elliott twice, it'll probably be unique. Dual-headed Philly running back. And, ooh, I can't get Jackson Smith. That's interesting. So you got to go Charbonnet or one of the tight ends, I guess. Fant. And that's 16 times. Jeez. Let's get out of this version. Yep, 2 spendy. 53 per. Okay. Nope. I don't like this slate. This would obviously be better with Jalen up there and Smith here. I think I just did this one before, but that gives you 27 left. You go like a wipeout Jalen lineup. There you go. That's unique. Jalen wipeout. Jalen with all 4 of his wide receivers and Drew Lock. I'm not going to say it can't win, but it's probably not going to. Getting games from both of those guys is a stretch. Jalen, Devonta, AJ I got no issues with. Drew Lock got no issue with, but the dual Quez and OZ there is a lot of overkill. If you're an Eagles fan, though, there's your lineup. Let's do one more on this site. Let's see what a lock captaincy looks like. We haven't done that yet. I'm going to do it without Hurts. I didn't mean to put him over that. It's a weird one. Lock to Metcalf. Swift picking up most of the action for Philly and scoring the goal line touchdowns instead of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts maybe throwing 1 touchdown to Dallas Goedert, where Goedert puts up in a decent score. Maybe Hurts throws an interception and knock his score back, and then you got both kickers in a low-scoring game. It's not bad game script-wise. It's still duped 7 times. I don't love it. Let me take Goddard out of the equation and put Jackson Smith in that spot. Lowers it a little, also lowers your point-scoring expectation. You have Kenneth Walker. Takes it down even further. If you go Walker and let's take Elliott out of there and give him Kenny Gainwell instead of Elliott. That's interesting. Double Kenneth. Anytime you can get the double Kenneth, you got to go for it. So Drew Lock, DK Metcalf, DeAndre Swift, double Kenneth, and Jason Myers. Heavy focus on the run game. Drew Lock to DK Metcalf for a pair of touchdowns. And pray to God that Jalen Hurts doesn't burn you for 4 or 5 touchdowns. Not necessarily the most likely way to go about the slate, but we don't want to chase the most likely in Showdown. We just want to chase the possible, and this lineup's got a lot of possible in it. I don't hate this one, to be duped only 4 times. That's not terrible. Let's jump to FanDuel. I'm going to do like 1 FanDuel lineup, I think. And it's going to be a DK Metcalf MVP. And I'm going to give him Drew Lock to throw to him. And I'm going to give him Jalen on the other side. But I'm not going to give Jalen AJ because I'm running out of money. I will give him, I guess, Goddard, since I can't afford Devonta Smith. Can I? No. Can I? 5,000 left? Maybe I can. Oh, no, 3,000 left. I'm dumb. Goddard leaves me 65. Goddard, Bobo, no thank you. Disley, yes, but Parkinson, no. Fant, no. That's rough. You can't get Parkinson into that lineup. I would have taken that. Boston Scott, probably the most reasonable option there. Just Stoll, I don't see at 65. Bobo, I don't think so. So yeah, that got a little pricey. So let's get no Goddard. If we don't go Goddard, we got Hurts and so you can go like Hurts and Gainwell from the Philly side and get to 75, and then you can get Fant in there. That's only duped twice. That's reasonable. I would like it if I had somebody for Hurts to throw the ball to in there, though. The way to solve that is probably going Lockett in the MVP instead of Metcalf, Drew Lock, Jalen Hurts, and then I could probably get Goddard in there. And now I've got 11, so I can go Goddard and Kenny Walker. I can do anything I want now. Let's do 10 times. That's playable on FanDuel. If you go a little lower, get like a Myers in there. 8. That's 5 over. Damn. You go Jackson Smith, but I don't know that I want Jackson Smith. Come on. I don't know that I want him MVP. That's funny. This version of it is 22 dupes. This version of it is 3 dupes. And then this version of it will probably be 40-something dupes. 70. Holy hell. It's important who you put in the MVP spot when it doesn't matter on FanDuel. Doesn't matter salary-wise, obviously. 610. All right, last FanDuel lineup. Just because I got to put a Jalen MVP lineup together real quick. Let's go Jalen AJ. See what we can afford with that. 9,000 a man. All right. So you can get like one of these guys if you start Jalen and AJ in either direction. I'm going to skip down. I'm going to go to, whoops. Such a bad aim. I'm going to go to Goddard. Now I got 92. I want something realistic from the Seattle side. That's the problem. And 92, I can get Lockett. 85, we're fine. Lockett. Elliott. 102 dupes. Holy jeez. Hurts in that captain spot is problematic. There's going to be a lot of ownership there. So this you have to get funky with probably. And like, hey, now it's 4. But again, cheating. Not cheating because this lineup could win. Colby Parkins scores a touchdown. That's got upside for days. But it is cheating again, our little game here, our little exercise. With that in mind, you guys, it is 6:12. Double duty tonight. Got to get some basketball projections updated because we know there's changes and we know with 11 games there's going to be a bunch more coming. So you guys rock. Yes, Lone Wolf. Jalen is playing. Lone Wolf's watching from behind. In a few minutes, you'll be hearing this, Lone Wolf. And I wish you luck tonight, my friend. And I wish all of you, all my other friends out there, luck. Hit the like button for me. Follow at Roto Scouts on Twitter/X/ some new social media network that I wish would pop into existence overnight so that we didn't have to use Twitter anymore. Victor Wembanyama out on Tuesday. That is not relevant information. So with that, guys, Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels are available. Gordon Hayward out. PJ Washington in. And that's all the news that we've gotten so far. All right. Winding things down. Good luck out there. Somebody go win something. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Full basketball action tomorrow. Good luck.